Welcome to City Life. I'm Beverly Thompson. Whether you're new to downtown Durham or a lifelong resident, you know that our downtown is a happening place that has truly been transformed over the last decade. But where do we go from here? Joining me to talk about the vision for downtown and what's next are Sara Young and Geoff Durham. Sara is with the City County Planning Department and Geoff is with Downtown Durham, Inc. Welcome, Sara and Geoff, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
So Geoff, let's get started with you. I know just last month, DDI hosted its annual meeting and it celebrated Durham's downtown, and the theme was "The Sky's the Limit." That certainly sounds appropriate to me. What was your feeling about the whole event?
Well, certainly we were very pleased with the turnout. Looking at the audience, there were over 400 people there representing the residents, the development community, a number of local businesses. So we were very fortunate to have such a widely and well-attended meetings. That certainly spoke to me personally about how much downtown has grown in a short period of time, and certainly how much the future holds for the downtown in that regard as well.
Great. You know, I think that's a great place for us to start. And Sara, that brings me to my next question for you. Remind us how far we've come in just merely a decade.
There's been so much happening in downtown. Started back in 2007 when the city took the lead and redid several of its streetscapes. There's been a lot of big projects like the Durham Performing Arts Center.
Oh, yeah. The
county has built a new judicial complex and a human services center. And then there's been a lot of private development as well, condo buildings such as Mangum 506, and the office complex at Morris Ridge, just to name a couple.
And that is just a few, huh? Because there's a lot more.
There's a lot more
in store, right? Geoff, let me go back to you. I know you're fairly new to Durham and the new leader of DDI. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Your name's definitely appropriate, I might add. Give us your impression of how these significant accomplishments to date have set the tone for what's next for downtown.
Sure. All the work that's happened and all the progress that's been made over the past 10 years has really created a significant amount of momentum. And where so much of the development in the past, not all of it, but a large percentage of it has been more the adaptive reuse, sort of reintroducing older warehouses and older structures back into the commercial market. The next wave apparently is going to be more of the new build in conjunction with some more revitalization and adaptive reuses of older buildings. And I think that is sort of the next wave and where the downtown is going to grow towards.
Okay. So Sara, what's going on right now? I mean, I think the list that you named earlier is definitely impressive. What's going on now?
We have a lot of projects also under construction right now. Some of the projects include Durham co-housing development in the northern kind of Durham Central Park area. There's also numerous apartment developments. There's apartments being constructed at Liggett on West Chapel Hill Street as well, and we're seeing a lot of that coming online.
So Geoff, of the projects that are currently underway, it looks like a lot of them are for housing. Can you tell us what the right mix for Durham is?
Sure. You know, that's a little bit tricky. With over 700 units of residential coming online here, I think the next wave is going to be an increased retail presence in the downtown. Certainly, at the street level are occupied by a fair amount of restaurants and bars and nightlife and so forth. But I think the retail is going to kind of come along and balance that out. The residential component of our downtown is really sort of following the tremendous success that's been created by our office space. We're well over 90% right now as far as occupied, and those residents seem to be following those jobs. And I think the retail is going to be on its tail.
That's great. It's a good sign, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So Sara, we just talked about the list of what's in development. Now tell me about what's to come.
So we have some very exciting projects that are in the pipeline, one of which is currently being called the Whitney, which is a 26-story tower, mixed-use, residential, office, some commercial space, some parking integral to that project on the site of the former Woolworths building. So right across from the historic Hill building, which is currently being converted into the 21Z Museum Hotel. That'll be a very exciting and game-changing project for downtown.
You know, the Whitney kind of reminds me of a New York kind of vibe, you know? So it's not too much for downtown, you don't think?
No, I think the face of downtown is going to change drastically probably in the coming decade.
Okay, so this next question is for both of you. There's a lot of development that's either happening right now or in the planning stages. But I'm sure there are a lot of challenges with developing a downtown. In fact, Geoff, a lot of developers have said we need to keep a focus on providing details, maintaining our authentic look, and parking. I mean, how do you find that right balance?
Boy, that is certainly a challenge, and at any time of rapid growth that we're undergoing right now, that delicate balance is one that we're going to continue to seek out. You'd mentioned challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges that all of downtown faces is quite simply connectivity. And it's connectivity in a couple of different ways. Connectivity attaching our business districts to one another. From Central Park over to American Tobacco, from Golden Belt over to Brightleaf, and making sure that there is an engaging street level activity to encourage that pedestrian exploration. And also connectivity in the way that downtown could connect with its emerging communities and neighborhoods on the outside of it. As downtown grows and expands, it can't do so unto itself, and has to make sure that that downtown is reflective of the entire community that it's that is providing services to. We refer to it as sort of everybody's backyard, and it's an important component of downtown's evolution to make sure that it maintains that authenticity as well as that connection with the neighborhoods.
Okay. And Sara, what do you think about that?
I completely agree. I think there's also some challenges in terms of there's aging infrastructure in place that the city's working on, upgrading water lines as one example to allow for more development. I think there's also this notion of competing interests. We want more parking, but we want more open space, but we want more, developed buildings. And so finding the balance of providing enough of everything is kind of the tricky part right now.
And there's no real magic answer. You just have to get input from a lot of folk and go from there, huh? All right. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break right now. But when we come back, we're going to learn more about the vision for downtown Durham. We'll be right back.
Even an Iraq vet like me who's in really good shape needs good health care. Especially when it's top quality and convenient. And it's not just for men. In fact, aren't you a vet, Patricia?
Yeah, I served in the Air Force.
So why not come in today? When you check in, you'll get a full medical exam, first thing. Free for vets at the VA. So check us out and see you here.
It's Christmas time in the city. As you plan and celebrate the season, Durham Police Department offers a variety of Yuletide safety tips and resources. Park in well-lit areas. Avoid carrying large amounts of cash. Always lock your vehicle and store all items out of sight. Equip your home with automatic timers and take inventory of home. Log on to DurhamPolice.com for a full holiday safety checklist and be sure to check it twice. Happy holidays from the Durham Police Department.
Welcome back to City Life. We've been discussing the exciting developments happening in downtown Durham and the vision for what's next. Joining me again are Sara Young and Geoff Durham. Thanks to you both for staying with me. So Geoff, let's get started with you. What makes downtown Durham so unique? I mean, it doesn't look like a Raleigh, not a Chapel Hill, not a Cary. Why is it just Durham?
I tell you, I couldn't agree more. As coming from the Washington, D.C. area, one thing about Durham that really spoke to me was just really its uniqueness, and it just seems very, very genuine. And a lot of that comes from the tremendous work that has been done here to make sure that as you re-engage the downtown, you don't do so at the expense of its true character. And I refer to more specifically the adaptive reuse of our warehouse space that really just, with the ornate brick and just the as you think back upon the Durham from decades ago, there's still an absolute nod to that. And do I think it's a good thing? I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it really creates a unique niche that Durham has and occupies in the Triangle. And I think that it speaks to a number of different businesses, both large-scale corporations can find something in Durham that they're interested in, as well as the smaller startups, the entrepreneurial venture, whether it be a retail or an IT company. They can find something like Durham's unique offering. So I think it's a tremendous asset.
I know I've walked through Durham sometimes, and I just look at the architecture. It's just gorgeous. And you really, yeah, it captures your mind when you just walk through and
there
look
aren't
at
too
the
many
buildings.
places that do it as well as Durham has done it.
We've been very fortunate that we managed to retain so much of it over the years and really reuse it.
Yeah. So Sara, a lot of people refer to downtown as a living room for the community, and that living room ought to be reflective of the community. What does that mean for developing a vision for downtown and everything it ought to capture?
Well, downtown, as we all know, is not just for the people that live downtown. A lot of people come to downtown for performances, for festivals. There's a huge employment base downtown. So downtown is a lot of things to a lot of people, and trying to capture you know, what the proper vision should be has been a long process that has involved a lot of different avenues of input. But really, it is a multi-pronged kind of approach. You know, we have a vision for what development should look like. There's a vision for what open space should be downtown. And so all these different facets aim to address some of the needs of all the different groups of people that come to downtown for different reasons.
Do you want to add something to that? I know you made a comment very similar to that at your annual meeting, and it just really, you know, impressed me that we all need to be a part of downtown.
Sure. I mean, you referred to it as a living room. I think earlier I referred to it as a backyard.
Yeah.
But I think it's incumbent upon us, our partners in the city, to make sure that the downtown is reflective of the community that it's serving. And I think one of the comments that you're alluding to from our annual meeting that I made is that everyone every Durham resident, when they look at the downtown, they should see a reflection of themselves looking back at them. And that is both a challenge as well as a great opportunity too. I think it finds a way to kind of walk that line between, again, that smaller startup type of venture, as well as some of the more established folks who've been with the Durham community the longest.
So Sara, the City County Planning Department has taken the lead on developing the vision, and you work closely with partners such as DDI, the Chamber, and other business groups to develop a master plan for downtown. Tell our viewers why a design district, and I don't want to get too technical here, but why is this something that makes sense for us right now?
So in simplest terms, a design district is what Durham has in terms of special zoning for downtown. And it's a zoning that, instead of focusing on different uses, you know, keeping commercial separate from residential, that kind of thing, it really focuses on the design of a place and how the streets are designed, how the buildings are designed, how the open spaces are designed, how all those work together to really create a sense of place that people say, aha, this is someplace I want to be. And so the regulations are really aimed to create that, and they're based off of the master plan that was created originally around 2000 for downtown. So the main impetus for going to that type of zoning was to really create something tangible out of the recommendations from the master plan.
Okay, all right. Now, Geoff, I know your organization has been really involved in each phase of the process, and many of our viewers are probably, you know, just a little bit perplexed as to why all of this energy is so directed toward downtown as opposed to other areas of the city. Why would you tell us it's important to have a corporate vision for what downtown ought to be? You know,
that's not at the expense of the community, other communities surrounding downtown, but I do believe that downtowns, everywhere actually, do have a reflective role. Downtown as a focal point for commerce and as a focal point for activity, entertainment, and culture can raise up everyone around it. I mean, I would make an argument that without a successful downtown, the communities around it couldn't succeed as well. So I think it starts with downtown. I don't think it happens exclusively in downtown, but I do believe that downtown is the catalyst for other great things in the community.
So Geoff, how does the Business Improvement District, or better known as the BID, factor into the master plan for Durham?
Well, our Downtown Improvement District does a couple of different things. I think first and foremost, at its core, it provides an enhanced level of general maintenance. I was walking around with a couple of prospects in our downtown, and as we were wandering, I said, you know, look around and tell me what you don't see. And the one thing you don't see is a lick of litter. I think it serves as an extra set of eyes in partnership with the Durham Police. I think that a large component of what we're evolving into will be an enhanced marketing of the downtown as a great place for events, as a great place to shop, to live, a great place to be entertained.
Okay. Speaking of all of that, tell us what's next. What's on the horizon for downtown? I know there's a lot going on.
So currently there are several studies and projects underway that are of interest. One is City of Durham has done a parking study to try and analyze, what are our parking needs currently and looking into the future. There's also a joint traffic separation study that looks at railroad crossings in downtown as, potential for light and commuter rail crossing through downtown in some future. That's certainly going to impact movement, both pedestrians, vehicles in downtown. And so there's a study that's aimed at looking at, the safety of railroad crossings in particular. There's also a downtown open space plan in the works. It's evaluating the needs for additional open space in downtown, where it should be located and what type of amenities it should have, what functions it should serve. So there's several big projects underway currently.
Is this the first time all of this kind of thinking's come together to just look at downtown as a whole?
Honestly, downtown planning goes back a long, long ways. And some of the recommendations, things that are being looked at now, for instance, the traffic separation study, were things that were actually thought about in the 1920s. And we have some old plans that I recently had the chance to do some research and look through, and I was surprised that a lot of these themes come back around again. So there are challenges that still need to be conquered.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break now, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that open space plan when we come back. And we'll be right back right after this.
Durham County is a large place. Children are small. We are young, and we need a strong foundation for a successful future. You can help build that future now when we are learning and growing. Investing in our first 5 years makes the biggest difference later.
Durham's Partnership for Children is a nonprofit organization right here in Durham County. We support children from birth through age 5 and their families so that every child is ready for school. Future success for our children depends on community support now, in the early years.
Can we count on you to make children a priority? Will you help us succeed? Please visit us at dpfc.net.
Welcome back to City Life. We've been discussing all things downtown, and now we're going to focus on the need for a downtown open space plan. Joining me again are Sara Young and Geoff Durham. Thanks to you both for staying with me. Sara, I know a big project that's on the horizon, you mentioned it in our last section, was the open space plan. I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about that and explain to us why the city is even concerned with having open space in a downtown.
Well, certainly the more people that come to downtown for whatever the reason, the more population you have, the more need there is for some area of respite, some breathing room, so to speak. And although we have a couple of spaces downtown that are considered open spaces, the Durham Central Park, and some people consider both Bull Parks open spaces, there really is no intentional open space downtown. There's some leftover parcels where buildings were formerly demolished that have kind of been adapted to be open space, which kind of shows the need for people to have some space to be outside in downtown, that it's not just wall-to-wall buildings. But really, in the past, there's been no concerted effort, and we recognized years ago, in fact, the master plan update of 2007, 2008 recognized it and said that we really need to plan for intentional open space, and that's exactly what we've been working on.
So are open spaces necessarily green spaces?
Not at all. For instance, one of our most well-known and well-used open spaces is CCB Plaza, which is all hardscape, which is a fancy term for not green.
Geoff, what makes an open space attractive to developers and to people who you want to attract to come to downtown?
Well, I mean, I look at the successes that DDI and the city have had in the past with Central Park and reactivating that park with the farmers market and as an activity center, and just look at the development that's starting to pop up around there. And then now move just a little bit further south, and you had mentioned the CCB Plaza, and look what's in the pipeline for there, some of the projects you were talking about. So I think that open space as an amenity, strategically placed in certain areas in ways that it further enhance the pedestrian experience, are absolutely an attribute when trying to attract developers.
Okay, all right. Well, Sara, do we have enough, or do we need more open space? I mean, do you see that on the horizon, just looking intentionally at getting more open space downtown?
What we've heard from the public is that there's certain types of open spaces that we don't currently have downtown. There's no real place for children to play other than some space at Central Park. Pretty much everything south of the historic core of downtown is only private open space, such as American Tobacco, which is lovely, but you know, has its limitations as well.
All right.
So what we've heard is that there is some desire to have some additional space, particularly because some of the spaces we currently think of as open space are really temporary in nature, and there might be buildings developed there. And so having some trade-off when something gets developed to be able to have some other space in downtown is what we've heard the public would like to see.
Okay, so it's a good thing to be thinking about that now, planning ahead, huh? So Geoff, I know a number of stakeholders were involved in a process to come up with a vision for what open space should be like in downtown. What goals did you come up with?
Well, like I'd mentioned before, the connectivity and how those open spaces do further enhance the pedestrian experience on the street level, and making sure that we can tie in our districts from one location to the other. I think in a way to sort of create almost unofficial gathering spaces, depending on how the level of programming or activation for these plazas. I think that sort of the passive uses of them serve as tremendous amenities for the residents and the workers for our downtown.
Sara, were there any other goals that you wanted to talk about that stakeholders brought to the table?
I think just having a variety of spaces. You know, some people think of open spaces, you mentioned earlier, as a green space, and in downtown that's not necessarily the case. So having spaces that will accommodate a variety of uses, whether it be something like CCB Plaza that's, you know, festivals and large gatherings, to smaller, more intimate green spaces. I think that people really wanted a variety of spaces.
So obviously you can't do everything at one time. What are some of the short-term plans, mid-term, and then long-term?
Sure. We've got, in terms of short-term goals, we have some existing open spaces in downtown, like Oakwood Park, the plaza at the Civic Center, that really, they need a makeover. And it's been a long time since they've really had any improvements. So short-term, we'd like to see those spaces brought into better use. New landscaping, potentially some redesign, so people can get more enjoyment out of those spaces. Midterm, I think addressing some of the connectivity issues, continuing with our streetscapes plan for downtown, trying to create better linkages to existing trails. And then long term, the plan does have some recommendations regarding creating a new open space downtown out of the area that's currently right-of-way, that's streets between City Hall and the county library. The city has a plan to return the loop to two-way traffic, and as part of that, a large portion of property would be returned to the city, and that's one great place that could be turned into a park that doesn't take away from potential development, because nothing's slated to go in what's currently a street.
I know the plan isn't adopted yet. Is it time for our viewers to get involved and give any input to the process?
There will be a public draft available later this winter.
Okay.
And information for that will be posted on the Planning Department's website.
Okay.
If viewers go to the Planning Department website, they will see a link that says Current Topics. Click right there, and there'll be a link to the open space plan and how people can get involved.
Great. Okay. Geoff, I have to go back to you. There was so much emotion at the DDI annual meeting, and it felt good. Really did. People are excited about downtown. So with all that going on, and you've only been here a few months, what are your closing thoughts? I mean, what do you think is next for us? And why are you excited?
Well, you know, I really, what excites me is I really do get the sense that this is just the beginning. I mean, there has been so much done, but you know, in all fairness, there was a lot to be done. But all of that hard work has created a significant amount of momentum and a renewed interest in downtown Durham from all different facets of the business community, whether it be development, whether it be you know, IT or medical type industries that are looking to populate in the downtown. You talked a little bit about the next wave of residents, which is going to be pushing forward the new population of retail and restaurants and shops like that. And I've heard from a number of different developers, some of them on our panel, that you know there's no place to sort of pick up a soda or a bottle of water. Of all, you know, you have this great downtown, but maybe not a quick, very few opportunities for a quick market or something like that. So I think that there's a big retail void. But when I look at all these pieces, and we'll be participating and happy to participate in the open space, as well as continue our participation in the parking studies, as well as the rail corridor separation. I look at these engaged and interested parties, and everybody has an opportunity to weigh in. And I think that collaboration, that's really what gives me cause to be optimistic. I think that moving forward, we are a transparent group. I think that they are a passionate group, and there is worse things to be in a community with knowledgeable and passionate folks. So
definitely.
That's what gives me optimism. That's why I'm excited to be here.
Great. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And Sara, do you have any closing thoughts?
I just think that this is a great time to be in downtown Durham. There is so much on the horizon. There's so much that has happened, as Geoff said, but there's still so much on the horizon. As I said earlier, I think the face of downtown is going to continue to evolve a lot in the next decade.
Great. Thank you both for being with me.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that does it for City Life. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And you can also find us on YouTube. I'm Beverly Thompson. Thank you for joining me to learn more about City Life in Durham.